Hi there, this is Doris Bunter of Library Arts, and I'm so glad you're joining me today for this wonderful Matisse-inspired painting. Now, this is a reproduction print, but what we're going to be doing is taking that as the inspiration, for our own painting on glass. I'm going to walk you through the steps of transferring the drawing onto your glass, and then how to paint it so it gives it that stained glass window look. That was actually something that I think Matisse would approve of very well. So come join me. In the next video, we'll talk about the supplies you have, and I'll walk you step by step how to create this beautiful painting within your own picture frame. See you soon. Okay, let's go over your supplies first for this wonderful Matisse cat and redfish reproduction that we're going to create on this lovely picture frame, which is a 5 by 7. And I have already put an image on the inside for you with tape, but we will be peeling that off later, okay? So this is just a simple IKEA frame. I like it because it stands up, and this is going to feel almost like a little bit of a stained glass window when we're finished with our painting. So pictures inside, you're going to have the reproduction as a color reference. You're going to have your paint, which consists of the primaries, one secondary, plus black and white. You can make green, but I kind of like to mix my own. And I mean, I'm sure you can, I think having the regular green is better than mixing my own, but you can make the orange with the yellow and red, which we will be doing for this. You're going to need a paintbrush that I have put with your kit, so just make sure you have your paintbrush. I like to keep a cup of water nearby so I can dry my brush and clean it and dry it, I should say, and a paper towel for dabbing my brush on, because you do not want excess water in your paint. You definitely want a dry brush. There's a little cup with an MP for Mod Podge, and that is a glue sealant that we're going to be mixing with the paint as we go to give it that super beautiful, almost stained glass look. There's a sheet of foil for mixing your colors on. You could also use a white paper plate, or if you have a palette at home, you can use that. So with all those, one more thing, you definitely need your black Sharpie at the very start of the program. So with all those materials sorted and found inside your bag, get your area set up. I like to put a paper towel underneath my work surface just to keep my table clean, but that's up to you. And in the next video, we will start with the image transfer and then discuss getting started with the painting. So I'll see you in a moment. Okay, to begin with, we're going to transfer this image of the cat with the redfish or goldfish onto our window. Our window is a plexiglass window that comes with the frame. You'll notice I just used a little bit of tape on the back to hold it. This window is held in place with some hot glue and some pins, so just be careful that you don't put too much pressure on this window when you do your drawing. But what I'd like you to do, take your Sharpie and simply trace around your image. Now, you see how the paper comes off the edge here? Just continue that shape to the edge. Whenever that happens, like this tree here, I'm going to outline it, and I'm just going to take it to the edge. Okay, same thing with the windows. And you're going to keep doing the tracing until your whole image is traced. You can always pull back the paper a little bit to see if you missed anything, but it should be pretty straightforward. So go ahead and trace your entire image. Again, this is on the outside front, and then I want you to peel off that paper afterwards. You can already see my marker line showing through. So go ahead and get started, and I'll see you back here once your tracing is done. Okay, now it's time for the big reveal, isn't it? So I already partially started to take my picture off, but I'm just gonna peel it the rest of the way, and there you go. If you have a white paper, or in this case I have a white paper towel, it makes it easy to see what you need to paint in. So the next thing is to keep your image handy like, you know, clipped onto a stand or whatever you want that makes it easy to see so that while you're painting, you know what colors to expect. So I'm going to just sort of tape it onto my little stand here so I can refer to it. And then next to my picture, I'm going to get out my paints. And I'm going to try to make sure that this image is primarily in the scene so that you can see it better. Okay, so here are my paints, which I'm going to open all of them up. Now, through this process, I think that because we're working on a small plate of plexiglass, you're not going to need a ton of paint, but nevertheless, you have quite a bit with these cups. You also have this Mod Podge. Now, on that surface that you plan to do your color mixing on, all you need to do is pour a little bit out. You don't need a lot, so I wouldn't even pour it all out. I just have a little bit and then save the rest for as you work. So we're not going to need that marker anymore, and you have yourself a nice Sharpie that you can use for other projects. Let's get started. I actually like to start with the cat, and I like starting with the cat because it's, you know, got that bright yellow primary color, and so you can keep your image. Again, mine's right in front of me, yours could be right next to you, but I like to start with a nice bright primary color. So here's where I'm going to go back to that discussion of the brush. Make sure you have a paper towel where you can really dry after washing each time all that water out of your brush, because when you put watery paint on a plexiglass surface, it's just going to roll all over the place. You always want to have a dry brush. So that's number one. Now I'm going to take some yellow, because the cat is a bright yellow, and I'm just going to put some on my tray here. I'm going to add a bit of the Mod Podge. And what the Mod Podge is going to do is a glue sealant. It's going to give that yellow a nice shine. And in the end, it'll give it kind of almost a watercolor stained glass effect. So let's go ahead and with little strokes. And see, I'm going to go right over those eyes because I'm not concerned. I can come back in later and put in the black. So I'm just going to paint this in, getting the head of the cat, going into the body of the cat. Now this is a see-through aquarium here, so I can go ahead and paint in the cat's body. I still see my black lines, which is great because I do want to see them because it makes it a little easier when I go back if the lines are still visible through the paint. And I'm just using small strokes to fill in the body of the cat, the tail, and this long leg and paw. Now, if you get a little bit out of the lines, like I just did, just wipe it off with your fingers or a paper towel. Don't worry too much about that. Now, we're going to be layering colors, and we're going to start mixing a little bit too. So I already have some yellow out. I'm going to put a little more yellow out. I'm going to add just a drop of red so I can make a nice orange. There we go, a nice bright orange. Definitely want it to be on the bright side. And I'm also going to add a little bit of white to create some opacity so it's not so see-through. And then, of course, I'm going to take a little bit more of my Mod Podge here. So it's a nice brightish, yellowish orange, which is what I want. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to that. And a little tiny drop of red. I like that. And a little bit more white. Yeah, I like that color. A little bit more of this. So I feel like I got a nice mixture. Now I'm going to go back over the cat again, and this time the color is going to be just a little bit more opaque, but not much. So on second thought, let's just leave that because we want that yellow to dry a bit more before we try to go back in and put a second coat. Let's leave that and go on to another part of the picture. How about we work on this wall? with the blue shapes and the shutter and window frame. So that's what we'll do next. You go ahead and finish your cat. When I come back, we'll start working on those areas of the picture. See you in a minute. All right, so we had just finished doing some yellow in the cat. We're going to turn our attention to the red in the wall with the blue shapes, the red down here and all around here, and we're just blocking in color. So we're probably going to put a second coat on later, but we're going to wait for this to dry. That way when we put the second coat on that I was mixing before, it'll be easier to layer it on top of a dry layer. So let's get some red out. And I'm going to be somewhat generous with that red. Here. And we're going to mix again some Mod Podge into the red to give it that nice shiny glass-like look. And don't worry again about covering up the shapes, because we're going to put a second coat of red on later and we'll bring those blue shapes out too. So let's just block in that red wall above and next to the cat. Goes around down by the table. And yes, we're going to paint over that line because the red does continue down here near the legs of the table. Like this. And just touching up what I did up here. And the red is over here, so I'm going to get a little more red, a little more Mod Podge. I'm not adding any white because I don't really want a pink color here. Now the top of this line is yellow, so I'm using just the red here, like that. And then I'm going to bring some of the red down here because it does go into this kind of white patterned plant area. So I'm going to avoid putting any red in that area yet. We'll come to that later. Coming around, down here below, I'm seeing that the red does continue below next to the chair here. Kind of zigzag pattern. And then we're going to come up next to it, and then in between it here, I think I come right over here actually. And you can sort of dot the paint on if you want to make it look thicker in the beginning, but what we're going to end up doing is basically 2 coats of paint to get the best color. Now next, right above this leg, we have another bit of red. And then this is actually a red-orange, so this is where we can go back and maybe reutilize that color I had mixed earlier that I decided to wait on. We can mix that up again later, but that color is actually perfect for putting right here in the corner for that sort of table surface that we have here. I'm going to just paint that, and that adds a little opacity to it because, again, we added some white. Just like that. Now that color is also a good color for above the cat's back here in that shutter. So I'm going to take some of that color and I'm going to put it right above the cat. So remember, this is the orange I had mixed earlier, but basically abandoned because I wanted to let the cat's yellow dry a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop it in here, making sure get enough paint and making sure my brush is dry. So I'm just sort of dabbing it on until I can get some good adhesion. I'm going to take a little bit more of that red because the top to me seems a little bit darker. So I'm going to put that right up here like this in that shape. Okay. Now we're going to move on with more pure red in the frame around that shutter. And so this is not going to be more orangey. It's going to be more of a pure red here. I like to use the tip of my brush if you are noticing the way I work. I don't usually flatten the brush onto the canvas because I think that gives me too much paint and less control. So you may want to try to use the tip of your brush as well. This is going to be yellow, so I'm not going to paint that in, but, and whoops, I just noticed a line I missed. I'm gonna get that in there right now. Part of that shutter. I'm gonna get this painted in red. And let's see what else. That's been painted in red. That's good, that's good, that's good. But I can go back to this orange again, that same kind of light orange with a bit of the Mod Podge. Right here, this hill has that same kind of orangey color, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pop that in there for now. Like that. Okay. So now, I'm just gonna touch, oh yeah, my cat is definitely getting dry. It's not there yet, but when I let it dry after we put this first coat on, we're gonna be in good shape for adding more color. So let's put some of this yellow out again with a tiny bit of red added to get that very slight orange. And I'm going to paint in the frame next to the red shutter and down here. And now we can actually pop in a new color. Well, actually, let's use the yellow because I think the yellow is going to be great in the fishbowl. You're going to say yellow, but isn't it green? Well, we're going to put the yellow down first and later add green on top to get that yellow glowing through the green. So first I'm going to put my yellow down, and I am going to put it all inside that aquarium. Like so. Like this. Except for the fish, which are going to be a red-orange. How's it coming along for you? Does it look a little bit messy? I know there's a light coming in, so I'm going to try to pull down my shade to prevent that. And we still have the light right there. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to move on to the white. And you may see a little bit of shadow coming in from the window here. And I'll do my best to get around that right here. And we're gonna work on the top corner of this picture. So what we're gonna do is get the white and the blue blocked in. So I'm gonna take pure white and that little cotton ball of a tree, I'm just gonna tap down some pure white there for that part of the picture. Doesn't it look like a cotton tree, like a little cotton ball tree? I'm gonna just do that. And the one on the side here also has that kind of cotton ball look. Very pretty, I love the contrast. So this picture is all about primary colors with a little bit of secondary colors coming in. But when it comes together, it looks absolutely amazing, as you will see as we move forward. Now, in the corner here is a blue, but I am going to add some white to my blue. So I'm putting some blue on my foil sheet here. I'm going to add a little bit of the Mod Podge. I'm going to clean my brush, dry it, and I am going to add a bit of white just to make it a little brighter. I think this definitely needs to be a bright blue. So, love that. I'm going to start putting on the first coat right here in the sky, just like this. And as long as you have a dry brush, you can put on a thicker coat. And having that white in there does make for better coverage in general. So that will help you also feel like, well, I'm really, getting some coverage here. And don't worry if that black line just got covered up by the blue. I can still see it. And looking at my reproduction, I know where it's going to go. So I'm not very concerned about that when I want to go back and add some black. Okay, that's really pretty. Now the table is also a blue. So, and I'm going to make sure I have enough of that blue. So I'm going to put some more blue, more Mod Podge, clean my brush, and add some white. There we go. Add a little more blue. There we go. So down here on the table, I'm going to move my picture up. There we go. I'm going to get into the tabletop, which has that really, really pretty blue. In fact, I can move this up here and we can focus just on getting that tabletop. I'm gonna move my tray out of the way so I can have more room for my paint. There we go, that's a little better. And I'm going to put the blue around those little still life fruits here. And of course, we'll bring it around on the stool, like so. Again, I'm not worried about the color yet because it's a first coat and we are going to build it up. Come around the cat's leg. And there we go. And here, and here, and there. There are the legs of that stool. I'm not going to put the blue into the red yet because I want to put a second coat of red on this wall over here before I add the blue shapes. However, I am going to introduce some white down here and then the blue shape. So I'm going to put some white down here with a little Mod Podge, of course. And it's just sort of like, going back to the cotton shapes over there, and then we're just going to tap on those bright flowers inside the shape. So that's the corner there. So let's stop here, and what I want you to do is get the blue in, the blue, the whites, all those things. Give you some time to do that, and then I'll come back in a few minutes and we'll tackle the only remaining open areas before we start back in with a second coat. Okay, see you soon. All right, here we are again. So let's finish up blocking in the grass. Again, I'm just going to put some green down here. I'm actually going to add some of the yellow over here to it because it's a yellow green. It's not a pure green. It's actually a really beautiful yellow green. And I'm going to add some Mod Podge. Maybe just a touch of white, not much. There, we got a lot of nice green. So let's block in this whole area. Again, I'm not concerned about the colors that are going to go on top because we're simply blocking in the grass inside this window next to the cat's tail. So we're just going to block that green in. You can even go in and add a bit of yellow on top if you want to make it a little more yellow-green. The green actually comes a little bit into the aquarium up to the cat's body, because again, it is a transparent container, so it's going to reflect the colors that it would see there. So here we go. Now over here on the top, we do have some green. I think that's more a choice of the artist more than what he actually saw. Playing with the colors. And then above that, you have the part where the cat's paw is coming in, and that's actually a yellow green. So if I take some of this yellow again and add it to the green, a little bit more yellow, I can actually change the color on top of what I had before to more of a yellow-green color. Take a bit more of that green to really make it stand out. Because remember what I said before was that we were going to take that green and go over the yellow. And this is a great time to do it because now, again, that little bit of yellow can still peek through. But we get the green that we want inside the aquarium. Around here, around the fish. And this little area above the water line is actually got some blues in it. So I'm going to go back to my blue, dry my brush, and bring in the blue here. And over here, tiny bit. I think that's green there, so I'm going to go there. And I feel like maybe I cut off a bit of in my speed and haste. But you see how I can just pick up that paint with my finger very easily? So now I can go back there. It is a green, but it also has a tiny bit of black. So I'm going to put a little bit of black right here. And then we're going to put that green right next to it. I don't want to lose that marker edge, which I will clean up later when the picture's dry. There. Okay, how about we block in those orange fish? Going back to that red orange that we were using before is a great color with the white mixed in and the Mod Podge. We can paint in each fish individually. Don't worry about the eyes, they will come back later. So I'm making some orange fish right here. And then we're going to be able to pop in those colors again with a second coat. Here's the orange fish. This guy's got some nerve. Pardon me, somebody was backing into my driveway. All right, so here's some fish. Nice. And then we have some golden fruits on the table here. So we're gonna go back there, and I see I missed a little blue around that paw, so we're gonna bring that back in a minute too, but let's get some fresh yellow out here. And I know my yellow's mucked up with some other colors in it, but that doesn't bother me. I like that. I like it to be mucked up a little bit with a few colors. Gonna add a pinch of white, so I don't keep the cleanest palette, but that doesn't bother me. Okay, a little bit of white again. Let's get in there and give these fruits some nice bright color. So there, gonna put some more yellow. There we go. Into the next one. And this one's kind of a yellow-orange, so I'm going to put yellow first, and I'm going to go back and add some orange. So almost every inch of my picture has been coated now, which is awesome, because that means it's going to be easier to go back and then layer that second coat of color. Now, when you do go back and start layering, what I want you to do is pay attention to the qualities of the color in the reproduction. Like when you look at the cat here, the cat has a beautiful green coming in here. So we're going to add a little green in there, green around the face here, a little more yellow over here. So I suggest you finish up, make sure all the parts of the picture are covered now. And then when we come back, we're going to start in with the second coat and really build up the color and bring out the details like the pattern in the wallpaper, the flowers over here and here. See you soon. We're back. We're ready for the second coat of paint. So I'm going to go back into my yellow, adding a bit of white. And we're going to add a tiny bit of red too, just to give it a subtle orange tone, but mostly yellow. And we're going to go right back onto the cat now And you're going to see that the coverage is a little heavier this time because we had that first coat of coverage done. So that's wonderful. So I'm doing the head here. And now what I'm going to do as I work is I'm going to go in here with that green, and I'm going to start to bring in the green around the nose, the face, the ears. See a little hint of green over here, a little hint of green on the side, and coming down the leg. And then I'm going to bring in more yellow, again, covering up the cat's body like before. And if I see orange, which I do, I'm going to make sure I introduce a little bit of that orange around the ear. Down on the lower face here, along the back here, right here where the belly line is. Even in this little crease here, there's a bit of orange yellow. And so we're going to do that by adding more yellow, more green, more orange, wherever we see it. I'm leaving that green in there, but introducing more orange with the yellow. And here. And you're saying, but I still can't see the eyes anymore. All those details seem to be hidden. Well, that's where we can come back in with a marker later and clean that up. So don't get concerned. We're going to bring those back. We're just layering colors until it's time to bring those back. Put a little yellow in here, a little more yellow here, because this paint will dry very fast. You don't need to worry about that. You're going to get a fast dry time, and by having that fast dry time, it gives you time to layer your colors and then come back and put more on top. So there's that green going down the side, and the green in here, and the green yellow over here with, I hesitate to put any black in here yet because I'm really wanting to let that black make everything pop at the end. So I'm not going to do that yet, even though you may be eager to go in there and add it. Don't add it because it's going to really darken colors where you don't want them to be dark. So let's hold off on bringing the black in. Let's still focus on blocking in the colors and not getting concerned about the black outlines. Now I'm going to go back to the red that we had earlier. That pure, beautiful red. Add some more Mod Podge to it. And let's put a second coat. Oh, it looks so much brighter this time, doesn't it? Over that wall. That looks beautiful. So everywhere we've painted, I basically want you to go back in and do a second coat. And then if you see some little subtle things that you want to pick up on, like the green in the cat, you can do that. But what we're going to do is, once we get all these colors blocked in again, we're going to go back in and detail like the blue leaves, the colors over here. But I want to get a second coat of color on first. So I'm going to let you go ahead, use the same colors you used everywhere, lightening and darkening as you need to. Then we're going to go in and add the pops of blue, the flowers, more details to the fish, and then I'll see you back here. So when you come back, my frame will have the second coat of color on everything, and then we'll move right into details. See you soon. Okay, at this point, I have blocked in the second layer of color all over my picture. Now, still lots of details to get in there, but the second layer has been blocked in. So now I'm ready to start adding those wonderful details that everybody's been wanting to add. Let's start with the beautiful blue in the patterns on the wallpaper. And look, when you put down that blue, it is literally going to pop because it is such a brilliant color next to the red. So I'm just going to be coloring in these little random shapes of blue. some of which have white, some of which seem like hearts. And I did mix just a tiny bit of white into my blue to give it that little bit of a pop. But I just think it's so pretty the way he uses this brilliant blue on top of that red to really make that wallpaper stand out next to the cat. Now you can also just make your own shapes up. I'm just looking at the shapes that I had put in here earlier, but I could even add a few more of my own. But having that nice deep red put down first really allows me to get in there with the bold color and pick that up. Now this is going to stay red down there, that's blue, but now we can come into the white and we can add some of the blue flowers. I'm not going to be exactly like I see there. I'm going to just sort of look for the colors I see. I see blue, I see some yellows, so I'm definitely going to be putting some yellow in there. I see some red, so I'm going to get some red dots in there as well. A red splotch there and a red splotch here and there, maybe even more than what they have. And now up here, you have these pretty blue shapes on top of the grass with a little bit of black in them. So what I'm going to do is put the blue down first, and then I'm going to come back and add a little black. And don't forget the yellow up there too. So I'm going to come in with just a tiny bit of black to darken some of those shapes. And don't forget the little lines, these little diagonal lines that were sort of in between. Didn't want it there, but that's all right. We'll fix that later. Now I'm going to get the yellows, beautiful, beautiful yellows, to dot the green, and they too are just going to pop so beautifully because of, and there's just a little bit of yellow here and there. I'm going to put within here like that. Now we're almost at the point where we're going to go in and add our black. So using just the tip of your brush, you can start going in with your black and start to add all those details back in that you've been dying to add. Going around the nose, going around the face, bringing in those two little pretty cat eyes. 1, 2, like that. Going around the head here, which is rounded, and coming over here and stopping just around the ear so I can then outline that ear, and coming around here. So again, we're just using the tip of the brush to really start highlighting those details on the cat very lightly. Come around the tail. And I'm going to go, this is really going to help my aquarium stand out, because that was sort of hiding, wasn't it? But the black outline is going to help bring the ellipse shape I have here back out, showing where the cat's paw's going in, showing the edge of the aquarium coming down like this, and the edge of the water, which is going over, since the cat's paw is going into the water, we see the line going over the cat's paw, coming down here, roughing in this. Now, if this seems too difficult to use your brush, let it dry completely and just use that permanent marker. It works great to outline and define your shapes. It's really not hard. In fact, some people find it easier to just go on top with the black Sharpie and use that. But don't do it until your paint is completely dry. I've done that myself, and it works very, very well. But for now, I'm going to stick with just using the tip of my brush to outline this. And I'm going to come down over here on the other side of the cat's paw, around the back edge. And sometimes the black line goes a little thicker than I wanted, but I'm just going to live with that for now. I'm not going to let it be a problem. I'm going to come down the other part of the cat. I'm going to get some black outlining this paw, very lightly coming into the water. And there. The cat is pretty much outlined. I'm going to add a little bit of black with that orange around the ear there. I'm going to come down here and add some details to the fruit. And get in here around the table, bringing that black in. And this is where the black is going to help us to see the diagonal pattern in the floor here, which we couldn't see before because it's sort of like just red, right? So by bringing that black in, you're going to now see the pattern that you couldn't see, especially right over here on the frame of the windowsill. Very helpful to get the black in there to help frame that out. Even this tree needs the lines, and we can even put a little bit of edging around the landscape, the mountain here. Look at that, really coming together now. You can periodically clean your brush just in case the black starts to pick up other colors from wet paint. I'm just bringing it down, outlining the shutters. Don't want it too heavy again, want to keep it on the thin side. Just like that. Now I'm still looking to see what else I need. Oh, I can go in and maybe add a little bit of outlining around the shapes here on the wallpaper, because sometimes you even want to add a little bit of detail. Like I love this heart shape. So I'm not even going to necessarily outline every single shape. Now that eye doesn't seem quite right, like it's a little bit longer maybe. Or this one could be just a tad thicker. I think that's better. Yeah. Then take a minute to take a look. See where you need to touch things up. I know I have to go in and deal with those fish. Those fish need a little touching up. They don't have the outlines they need. So I'm going to do those next. Keeping my brush nice and dry. Going in, outlining my fish. With just the tip of my brush. And the bottom of the aquarium here. Of course, right there. But you see how everything kind of pops into clarity once we are able to get in and add the details. So I want you to go in, finish up your details, use your outlines, add any other extra things you might want to do. Like for instance, I feel like there's some tiny little blue dots I'd like to add into that cotton tree there, also over here. And just look for any other areas that need touching up, and I'll meet you back here in a few minutes. Have fun. And we're back. How did you do? Here is our lovely cat dipping his paw, like, any cat will do, given half a chance, into a little mini aquarium inspired, of course, by who doesn't love Henri Matisse. So I think it's a beautiful project. I think when it's completely dry, you're going to have that wonderful, glorious light coming through, almost like a stained glass window. So I hope you enjoyed painting with me today. I hope you love Henri Matisse or have developed a new appreciation for him. And in the meantime, this is Doris Venter saying thanks for joining me. I hope you stay creative, you stay well, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.